Today I'm not going to be talking about the same old fruit trees like apples, cherries, plums, peaches, pears, and all those other ones that everyone already knows about. But I'm going to be talking about trees that may not be immediately seen as valuable, but each one has multiple benefits for both you and the land, and all are basically zero maintenance. So let's dive in. Depending on the variety, pine trees can be some of the most resilient trees out there. They're drought resistant, can grow in a myriad of soil types and climates, and are usually able to grow proportional to the care they're given. Not only are they fast growers in just tolerable conditions, they're also one of the lowest maintenance trees I've ever seen. Their needles can be used as kindling, for weaving cute baskets, and as a substitute for mulch or wood chips. The wood is great to work with, and the resin produced can also be quite useful. And finally, depending on the variety, the pine nuts produced by the tree are pretty tasty and will be very useful for years to come. On the topic of nuts, most nuts have useful qualities beside the fruit of the nut itself. For instance, hazelnut trees are excellent in coppice forestry and can produce firewood year after year. Most nut shells can be crushed and used as a very long-lasting mulch. Black walnut husks can be used as a dye and a possible herbicide, and so on and so on. Either way, whether it be a chestnut, walnut, hazelnut, almond, hickory, Brazil nut, any sort of nut tree is always going to add benefit to your land. Mulberry trees are very fast-growing and very abundant in fruit early on and for decades to come. Mulberry leaves are also one of the only food of the silkworm. As an additional benefit, the wood is very easy to work with and is quite strong, and since mulberries grow quickly, they can make for a good firewood source, if grown correctly, as well as windbreaks and desert breaks. Not only do the fruit, leaves, and wood make this tree stand out, but there are also several claimed medicinal benefits to eating the leaves, such as managing diabetes and lowering cholesterol. It should be noted, however, that more studies need to be done to determine how safe mulberry leaves are to eat in the long term. Either way, do your research before eating. Honeylocusts are relatives of beans and peas, so they act as nitrogen fixers in the surrounding soil. Though they don't have as great of an effect as other nitrogen fixers, there have been studies that show that honeylocusts fix nitrogen directly in the root instead of relying on nodules outside the root, meaning that the nitrogen will continue to be added to the soil even as the roots decay. Either way, honeylocusts are a net positive for the soil. And finally, honeylocust pods and seeds themselves are edible, though difficult to process. If you want to know more about that, you can find a video on that here. Willow trees consume a lot of water, so in the right setting, they can be a great lakeside or riverside addition. Not only that, but they respond really well to coppice forestry techniques, and you can use or sell the willow reeds for baskets and other crafts. Willow reeds are becoming a pretty lucrative market, so I'll be making a video on how to tend to willow trees for the purpose of selling the reeds. As an aside, white willow bark can act as a natural painkiller, but because of the risk of internal bleeding if taken in the wrong dosage, you should not be choosing to use the bark as anything other than a last resort, and only in the correct dosage. Most of these 5 trees can be grown in the majority of locations and climates, so this list is meant to be a universal starter for any homesteader. Furthermore, these trees all have equal benefits to you and the local ecosystem. It's important to have diversity in the trees you select, so make sure you're making every tree useful in some way, not just for you, but also everything around you. If someone were to ask me what trees they should grow on their homestead, I will generally refer them to this list as a starter. If you think my list is needing some additions, please let me know in the comments below. Feedback is always appreciated. And finally, if you're struggling to find a tree that works for your property, you are more than welcome to drop a comment here or email me at the email in the description. Me and my team work really hard to provide free, research-backed advice for anyone who asks. So until I see you in the field, happy hunting.